it wasn't until I came out to LA that it felt like there was something that was different. It was like I was staying in this little B&B, and B, and a family was renting it out, and they were very supportive and into the idea of like this Midwestern kid coming out and like writing songs, and like they vacationed in Michigan too, so they understood like kind of the magic of the sand dunes and Lake Michigan and everything. So there's that connection, and yeah, so they had little kids too at the time, and they were all very creative, so they wanted to show me the songs that they were writing and the instruments they were learning. So that was a
Wow.
really cool like moment of like being in this a very different place from where I grew up, but having that connection and uh, that just support from kind of these new friends that are just like, yeah, do it.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going, Adam?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Garrett?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for doing this. I'm really excited.
Yeah, for sure.
I interviewed you at Coachella like years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I used to work for this radio station in 91X in San Diego. We had this house, and you came by the little
Oh
flop
yeah,
house. Yeah,
I remember the house. That was it was it was 2018 or
I
16.
think it was no, it had to be 18 because I was trying to think because my kids were with me, and you took a picture with us all.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, well, my kid was born the weekend 2 of 2016 Coachella, so I knew it was, definitely the 18 one.
Nice throwback. Love it.
Yeah, well, it was great seeing you.
Yeah, yeah, you too, man.
Yeah, so this is all about you, a little bit different. It's about you and your journey in music, and obviously we'll talk about, the new EP you have coming out next month, and I love the song that's out thus far. It's amazing, man.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So I always start to, kind of start off with your origin story, if we will. But like, you're born Michigan, correct? Great.
Hmm.
Okay, tell me about that a little bit.
Uh, yeah, born in Michigan, right near Lake Michigan. So I spent a lot of my time uh, kind of as an aquatic child,
Okay.
and pretty amphibian upbringing. Um, and
Were you in Grand Haven? Is that what I saw?
yeah, Grand Haven. Oh, I went to Grand Haven High School. I grew up near right outside of Grand Haven. So
So you
yeah.
swam a lot in the ocean or in Lake Michigan then?
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty outdoorsy childhood. Like my family, like our vacations were like backpacking on like little islands around or like surrounded by Lake Michigan, and and yeah, just cross country skiing in the winter time and snowshoeing and
Wow.
all that stuff that you imagine in kind of like a it's like a snow globe town, you
Hmm.
know? It's like the little town that exists inside of a snow globe is actually the town that I grew up in, which is kind of crazy. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you come from a musical family at all?
Uh, well, they played a lot of music, like listened to a lot of music. My sister is pretty naturally musically talented, so she grew up like playing the flute, and she played piano before me, and that kind of got me into uh, learning songs by ear because she was learning like popular, like just like songs on the radio on the piano. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So that got me into, I think, just trying to figure out melodies and chord structures and stuff. So yeah.
What age were you when you was piano the first instrument you started also? And how old were you?
Yeah. Yeah. Piano was pretty early on, but it didn't really catch on until, I mean, I was probably like 4 or 5 when I started like
Wow.
learning scales, but like I didn't really know why I was doing it. But in my like teenage years, and it was like, oh, I can write songs. Yeah, I can use this as a tool to like write songs, learn songs. Like I was really into parody songs,
Mhm.
like writing my own lyrics to, you know, the tune of kind of things, and like
Sure.
making up songs about friends and stuff. And just the comedic aspect of that, I think, was what kind of just like you can make somebody laugh with a song kind of thing. So I was like, all
Mhm.
right, this is something I like to do. So yeah.
Did you? Because you were way into film too, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, in high school and all of that, even after?
Yeah. Yeah, the visual arts were a big part of my kind of just yeah growing up, and I was a pretty like solitary kid in a way. Like I liked spending time on a project and just being in my room and just like editing something or like yeah, just like drawing or just like creating a story or something. And I found a lot of peace in just kind of solitude. So
Mhm.
still do. Yeah.
With that, like, when does were you always writing music as well, though? Was that all kind of hand in hand, or were you focusing more so on the visual and editing, like, doing more of the film thing, and then this kinda happened naturally or later, or
Yeah, I think it came out of necessity. It's like I'm trying to make a movie of some sort. I need to figure out a soundtrack and like the music that goes with it. So I just I love all the bells and whistles. I don't know. I'm so curious about kind of trying out everything. So yeah.
so you just yeah, you just became just did it to kinda accompany what you were already doing as far as visual.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's just I like the challenge of it and I like the mystery of just figuring out like how do you marry, music with motion and
Mhm.
like how do those things, tell a story and um just watching movies like I just remember like being like 14 and like starting to really get into like how movies were made. And then I couldn't watch a movie without like I couldn't even enjoy it for a while because I was
Oh,
just like
yeah.
looking at every cut, every like little, you know,
Yeah, just dissecting it, you're, like, trying to "Okay, I know what they did there." You kinda can
yeah,
kind of assume what's gonna happen.
yeah, like watching for someone's mouth to move, like when they're doing like a over the shoulder and it's not like syncing up to the audio and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, they're using a different cut there. It's just like I just nerded out way too hard. I'm like, I can't even enjoy this anymore. I'm trying to like I always try to like when I get to that point try to just back away and let the magic still be real a bit because I can get pretty obsessive in the details of things. So
100%. I'm the same exact way, and that's with with radio. When I did radio, it's the same thing. Like you'd hear all these things, and then you get the behind the curtain peek, and you're like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing here. I know
uh,
what this show is doing. I know that this was a voice actor or whatever, like this bit, and it just kind of ruins it for a minute. You're like, oh man, like once you kind of figure it out.
right, yeah, it's like a magic trick.
Yeah, you did magic too, didn't you? Weren't you a magician?
Yeah, actually,
That's amazing.
that was the beginning of sort of the performance aspect of things, I think. So yeah,
That's cool. I've
yeah,
always been fascinated by magic. I think that's such a rad skill or
yeah,
thing that people can do.
yeah. Me too.
Um, so with your, your songwriting and everything, when do you start? Like, do you start a band in high school or anything like that?
Uh, I joined a couple bands in high school that were looking for a singer and sort of a lyricist. So I guess freshman year, I became like the lead singer of a band with some friends that had they just didn't really have a like a front person.
Mhm.
So that was like yeah, that was kind of a challenge that I wanted to take on of like how to how to sing, how to be captivating, what to do with my hands while I'm
Sure.
figuring out the whole thing of just like, all right, you can't just, I mean, you, not that you can't, I mean, you can definitely just stand there and sing. Like, there's so many ways to approach it. So it's like, what is my style? So,
Mhm.
yeah, so there's a lot of kind of experimenting with that kind of what kind of performer I wanted to
Mhm.
be. And I mean, there was very little pressure. This is like high school band and just like a high school rock band kind of thing. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
With your voice, like when did you uh learn that you could sing? I mean, obviously your voice is incredible. Is that something that like you
Oh,
just
that.
knew naturally that you could do it, or you put in like lessons or chorus or choir? Did you do anything like that? Musical theater or anything like that?
Yeah, I did choir in high school, and I didn't really understand the concept of a unified voice at that point.
Hmm.
So I I I think I stood out a little too much. My tone wasn't the right thing for like a choir performance. Now I understand it a bit more, like trying to make one voice out of, 50 voices. Uh,
Sure.
but then, yeah, I think I just was too interested in being the lead voice or whatever. So
Yeah, and you had the cool, unique voice that wasn't matching the 50 or whatever others.
it was, I'm not sure if it was cool, but it was unique. It was like it's been a journey trying to figure out my voice, and I feel like looking back, I chose like a pretty high range because it felt like I was always trying to sing over just like a loud band, and
Mm,
where there's all these instruments clashing, it's like I try to pick a kind of a level that my voice could be heard. So I just ended up singing really high, and then that turned into trying to understand like how to properly sing high and um, or in the high range. And I took a couple lessons from a like a like an opera singer,
wow.
a accomplished like tenor opera singer, and that was a whole different thing. That was like listening to someone sing in a room and like having like the dishes rattle, you know? It was like,
Yeah,
whoa,
break
this like
glass.
yeah, yeah, hopefully not break the glass, uh but yeah, like like operas was created to fill a room when there were no microphones. So it's like
Sure.
how to project your voice like that. And I remember he was teaching me like if you want to sing high, like powerfully in a high register, you have to work your lower register. And like he's like it's like lifting weights. You can't just lift light weights and like expect to like gain strength or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, okay, I think, all right, yeah, I get it. Um, and I'm not sure I did get it at that time because I still like was like, yeah, but this is kind of how I want to sing. But it was a
Mhm.
good foundation to learn. And again, it's like there's so many lessons I feel like that apply like 10 years later. Then you go, oh yeah. Like there's just like that moment of, okay, I think I understand what he's saying now.
Mhm.
It was almost like once I started touring and actually like playing shows back to back and had to like look out for my instrument, that's when I started to just be a bit more conscious and sensitive about like, oh yeah, like if I'm gonna try to sing that high at every show, I'm gonna have to figure out like some warm-ups and some like,
Yeah.
yeah, like really looking out for the instrument. Because if that's not working, we got a problem.
Right, no, 100%. It's things that, like, most people might not even think about. Like, you would assume, "Oh, well, oh, it's a singer, so you get to just, you can kinda come out and you'll just be able to do this because that's what you do." But try to sing every night for 100 days in a row or whatever it may be, and with minimal breaks if you're doing these big, long 4 or 5-month tours, like, that would be brutal on your voice
Yeah,
real quick.
yeah, for sure.
So,
Unless you want to
wow.
do a spoken word show, just like
Yeah.
what's happening?
Sure. Um, so you end up getting just to like when do you start like really focusing on the songwriting thing, like in the music thing? Because you put out an EP through a major label, like which became the album. Before that, you had a record, right? Under
Uh,
a different project,
um,
just like Garrett Bournes or something.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I put out music just as yeah, Garrett Borns before I started traveling and writing and working on kind of the Borns project. So
sure.
yeah, yeah.
So when did that start? Like and then when was that transformed into the Bournes project now?
Uh, I mean, I'm not sure that I really knew it was transforming into Borns because it's like in real time, everything
Mhm.
just seems like. uh, I don't know, it just felt like I was writing a lot of songs and I was trying to um, kind of cut my teeth in different environments. And I was in New York for a little bit working with some producers out there, and I went to Nashville and tried that on for a little bit and then ended
Oh,
up,
really? That's where I live now. I moved
oh
from San
yeah,
Diego to Nashville. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't
nice.
know you said you were here. That's cool.
Yeah. It was kind of like just writing with anybody that was open to write and trying to understand and learn about the industry and um, meeting with publishers and not even really totally knowing what that entailed or meant. You know, it was a lot of like uh, just learning along the way. And yeah, coming out to LA uh, and then writing a body of work that turned into uh, like an EP that got me a record deal out here, and then that turned into going by BØRNS,
Oh.
and yeah, so it kind of just happened step by
You
step.
just step by step. It wasn't like a big like some moment happened. It was like, okay, now we're doing it this way. It was just kind of you just grinded it out. Was there like a little like what was like kind of an early validation for you that you saw happen, or was it a song or a moment? Obviously, before the record deal or something that keeps you going, okay, I'm gonna spend some time in New York, I'm gonna spend some time in Nashville and LA, like to move around and really pursue this. Was there like a little victory along the way, or a handful of them that like kept you going?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just the curiosity and just feeling like this was a time in my, I guess I was like I just turned 21 when I moved out to LA, so it was kind of a new uh, just experience and like an independence that I was just very excited about learning about.
Mhm.
Um, just growing up in a smaller town, I had that feeling that I was like, there's so much I don't know. I really want to just like get out there and like figure it out and learn what the world's about, and try to write songs along the way and see what happens. And so yeah, I mean, there was all these kind of like just moments of human connection and just like writing with different artists and producers and just learning along the way and just trying to figure out like what kind of music I wanted to write. And it wasn't until I came out to LA that it felt like there was something that was different. It was like I was staying in this little B&B, and a family was renting it out, and they were very supportive and into the idea of like this Midwestern kid coming out and like writing songs, and like they vacationed in Michigan too, so they understood like kind of the magic of the sand dunes in Lake Michigan and everything. So there's that connection, um and uh and yeah, so they had little kids too at the time, and they were all very creative. So they wanted to show me the songs that they were writing and the instruments they were learning. So that was a
Wow.
really cool like moment of like being in this a very different place from where I grew up, but having that connection and uh, that just support from kind of these new friends that are just like, yeah, do it. We believe,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
and so that felt good. And they were playing a lot of music too that influenced the records that I was making. They were playing like old glam rock, like David Bowie and um, Mark Bolan and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
at that time, my hair was getting longer, and kind of uh, yeah, like adopting this kind of like uh, fantastical kind of uh, presence and like kind of I guess like a character that I was trying to create with the music and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I first got hip to you with Electric Love, and because we were playing it. I remember whoever was working for Interscope at the time brought it into the radio station and like need to hear this song, and right away I was like, okay, yeah, this is a hit, obviously. and then we played the hell out of that song for a long time, and then 10,000 Emerald Pools came out as the second single, but that was actually the first song that you guys that was like your first single, right? And then did the label go back and put that out after? I was confused about that part.
Uh, well, I mean, that was like Emerald Pools was the first song that I put out like an official video for.
Okay.
And that was the song that kind of got some of the conversations started with the publishing company and just some labels. Like I made a music video with a friend for Emerald Pools, and we just had like a private like Vimeo link, and then
Mhm.
that password must have been passed
Shared.
around. All of a sudden, we were like, "How many people have you shared this with?" Because the views keep going up, but I thought this is like a private link. I thought, but then like emails from just like yeah, publishing companies and A&R people, and so that kind of that started the some of the conversations, and then I ended up making a couple more music videos for that, like because they were like the first one they were like, yeah, well, maybe it's not really, let's try another version of.
Yeah.
So we made another one and they were like, oh, it still seems too like low budget or something.
Which is now is so funny because everything like the low budget stuff always is like well online. You know what I
That's
mean?
what, right? Yeah, I know. Like, but there's that's the magic of it. It's like
Yeah.
making it more, yeah, like practical and real and like, and I loved the videos that I was making with my
Mhm.
friends, and but the label's like, it's not big enough. I'm like, so then I did two more videos that they were just like, it's too like indie or whatever. And then finally we made like the bigger video that they wanted to make, which is the video that came out now, which is probably my least favorite
Oh,
video
interesting.
because I'm like a little like thinking back on it, it was such a uh it was so like such a pain to make. It was like it was in a pool
Oh,
that
that's what you were upside down for like 4 hours or something like that?
basically like just like torture. Like
Yeah.
like my I was like my ankles were like strapped onto this thing and I was like upside down in the water with like putty in my
Ears and nose and stuff.
ears. And then I like lip sync underwater in like a pool that was cold and everybody else was like in wetsuits. They were like throwing literal bowling balls into the water and glitter while I'm doing that. It was like that's the craziest environment to like do like lip sync. I was like, holy shit, this is so crazy. Um, is it going to be worth it? Turns out, not really. I don't know. Like the end result, I was like, yeah, that doesn't even look as great as you guys were making it sound in the beginning. So, and then I got like crazy sick and had to like then play a string of shows, and I was just like,
Oh my gosh.
what good came out of this? Why, why couldn't we just gone with the first video?
With the first couple that you did, obviously.
First couple, I know. So, maybe I'll see if I can find those and release them for because Dopamine turns 10 years old in 2025. So,
That's wild. That's so wild to think.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, so, like I said, I got hip to you with that record, and I was like, "Whoa, like, this is really cool," and then we saw you a couple times at Coachella, and, you had another album out, and then Electric Love makes this other, like, life of itself, like, in 2020. What was that like seeing that? That must have been a trip just because it was, what, 5 years at that time it had been out.
Yeah, that was a trip. Um, I didn't really even understand what was happening because I wasn't on TikTok.
Yeah,
Uh,
you were off social media for a couple years.
yeah, yeah. I was taking a break from all that, and I had some friends just text me and go like, "Your song's trending," and I was like, "Cool." Like, I don't know. I've just heard that. I've heard, the the phrase trending, you know, in so many different contexts. I didn't really know what it meant. But then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, the song started like charting again, and like, yeah, just it found like a completely new fan base, and like it was like this rediscovery, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, damn, hell yeah, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I was really happy that it just organically did that, and yeah, people were like, "Are you gonna make a TikTok?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't really want to mess with it. Like, if it's gonna have a moment, like, let it. I'm just gonna
Let
let
it
it.
be.
Yeah, moment. So, yeah,
So you didn't even jump on board, you just let it go and watched it or only weren't even on there, so you almost just heard about it from afar.
yeah, yeah. I just kind of, I saw the streams go up and everything, which was uh cool. But
Awesome, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you're at over 1,000,000,000 on that song. I mean, that's hard to
oh,
even wrap your head around.
yeah. I know it's a crazy number.
Well, are you still independently or did you sign to a label for this newer project?
Yeah, I'm independent.
I love that because you
Yeah.
put out Suddenly last year. I guess it's almost the end of this year is coming up, but
Yeah.
which is an incredible EP. What was it like putting out that independently? Like, was that a totally different thing?
Yeah, new thing. Um, yeah, it felt really good. It was very empowering to put out a body of work completely independent and be in charge of like of just the entire creation of it. It's like
Mhm.
I I booked the studio, like I like paid the musicians, I like flew in my friend to shoot photography, like um I mean all these things were, happening through a label uh prior to that with the other records, um and uh and obviously I had at the time when I was on a major label, there was so much kind of just so much performing and so much traveling and interviews and all this stuff that I couldn't have. I mean, there's no way that I would be able to do any of that stuff, but also I just didn't know how much money was being spent towards anything, and like so it felt good to be a bit more uh yeah, just bringing it back to that kind of just the independent, like, do it yourself thing where it's like I know how much money, because this is all coming out of my pocket, and I'm going to
Sure.
keep the budgets way smaller, and because it is about the creativity to me, and uh and I really just don't need, like, with the example of the music video, like doing the big music video, I really don't need that to make something that I think is worthwhile. I'd much rather like uh just have to be creative with the resources that I have. Um so yeah, it felt good. It's a lot of work. I mean, to do it independently, but I'm very empowered by it, and I love just connecting with people and having the conversations and talking about, you know, with the musicians and the finding a distribution partner, um, and crafting my own team around everything. It's like I like being on the forefront of the conversations. So
Mhm.
yeah,
And you have complete control. If you wanna put a song out, you can do it, and there's no one telling you, "This is can't come out yet," or I'm sure did you ever run into those type of issues before where you wanted to release something and it was like, "Oh, yeah, hang on, it's not the cycle for this song yet," or not we can't do that quite yet. You don't
yeah,
have to answer to anybody anymore.
yeah. It's true. I mean, that's a very good point. It's like there's so much more kind of creative uh, control that I can have, and I'm not making music to show to a label, or like trying to make it for a label's standards, because um, I was like having a hard time with that, delivering music to, you know a company that uh, would probably rather I not go the more artistic route.
Sure.
They
They want the pop hit that's gonna make them the money,
Yeah,
the
for
business.
I mean, yeah, makes sense, but you know, it's
Yeah.
a
It's
little,
hard. I mean, I would imagine, especially you have 2 albums that do really, really well, and then it's like, "Okay, well, we need to continue the same, you know, formula," or I don't know, you can't even really I bet it's hard to expand, artistically in too far in a way or not far enough. It could be, like, pretty dicey where they're gonna say, "No, this isn't what we're looking for," or this, when you're like, "Well, I love this song, and we don't know if anyone else loves it yet. We're not giving it a chance."
yeah, and like in the music that I did deliver, like the Dopamine and Blue Madonna were,
They're huge.
well, those were, I mean, they weren't really, uh, like the label just kind of let me do my thing. I mean, the music on those records were all just a product um, of me and Tommy English,
Mhm.
um, and and the label put me in with other sessions, you know, with like big producers because I think they wanted like you know that like the opportunity for like a big song, but um, nothing really came from those sessions that made it onto those records, and so those albums were just like creative experiments, and and even like delivering them Blue Madonna, I was like, oh man, like did I go too far into the creative experiment zone? Definitely pushing some things here, like uh some boundaries just with like production and songwriting and key
Mhm.
changes and stuff that they were like, hmm. And I noticed that it seemed like their interest waned a little bit when Blue Madonna, you know, was delivered and there wasn't an Electric Love on it or whatever, you know?
Mhm.
And so, you know, I was like, I felt kind of insecure about that record for a while because I was like, oh man, like I put so much into this and I feel like they don't like it. But but now I mean I love that record.
I was gonna say that's an awesome album.
It's just funny. It's like in the moment I just, you know, there's just it's easy to feel insecure about something that you're so close to and that you put so much love into, you know?
Mhm.
It's like it's a personal thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanna talk to you about this new body of work that you have coming out. You've released "Grateful For," which is such a rad song, and it's almost like going back to what we were talking about in the beginning, talking about where you kinda came up, where you grew up, right? Kind of back to Michigan and in in a way.
Uh, yeah. Yeah, excuse me.
No
Uh,
worries.
yeah, I mean it's kind of a going back to my roots song. And the video was filmed actually on the shore of Lake Michigan. So,
Really?
yeah. And and walking through the woods near where I grew up. So that was a nice kind of reconnection. And and just like a simplification, you know, down to uh, an acoustic guitar and yeah, just like a live arrangement. So yeah.
Mhm. With this project, like, when did you start working on it? Have you been has it been finished for a while now, or how
Uh,
quickly after suddenly came out? I know you had a lot of stuff go on and, between your losing your father and all that stuff, and I'm so sorry to hear about that,
thanks.
and then you put that record out, obviously, and then, how quickly do you start working on these songs?
Yeah. Well, some of the songs on Honeybee were written uh, during kind of like the like 2020 and
Really? Wow.
yeah. And and some of the years following that, they were just kind of like voice memos up until that point, or just like some demos that I made on my computer. Um, but yes, suddenly was recorded in um, the end of 21, and like
Mhm.
so all those songs were kind of being all the arrangements and everything were being worked out, and then December of 21 booked a studio. It was actually just like a rehearsal space rehearsed with a drummer and a bassist, and I was at the piano, and we uh, played all the songs. I taught them the songs, and we um, worked on like the best kind of arrangement for them, and then ended up having a vibe in the rehearsal space. So we just brought in some dividers and mics and just tracked it all in the same room. And that's what you hear on Suddenly is just there are all these.
Really? That's just the live takes.
Yeah, I mean the
Wow.
strings and the background vocals, those are all overdubbed
Uh-huh.
afterwards. But yeah, all the takes on Suddenly and all the stuff on Honeybee, they're all takes all the way through the song with a live band. So
Really? Did you use
yeah,
the same band and same guys for this or same people for this new
uh,
project with Honeybee?
different drummer, a drummer that I've toured with, who's a very close friend of mine, Kristen Gleason Prada, played on uh, the Honeybee songs. Um,
Mhm.
so she brought her uh, rhythmic kind of flavor to that. She also is a really accomplished percussionist, and she studied like world percussion. So she brought in all these awesome like um, different shakers
Wow.
and kind of
Just different
stuff. And like
instruments, yeah.
yeah, and played to her own drums, which is really cool on Honeybee. So yeah, yeah.
But they all started but, I mean, the structure of the song started even, like you said, in 2020, and then when do you get this rehearsal studio and go or did you do it at the same place, or did you get to go to a different place for this one? And, like, when
S
do you start doing this record?
Yeah, so for Honeybee, we tracked it in a similar way with bassist and a drummer and uh, and me at the piano in the same space, but it was in a different studio.
Mhm.
Um, uh, yeah, we just booked out the studio for 2 days and tracked 4 songs one day, 3 songs the other day, and just um, picked the version of the take that we liked best. We tried some fast, tried some slower, tried some drunken. We weren't actually drunk, but the the arranger who did all the beautiful orchestral arrangements on
Mhm.
the stuff. His name's Steve Weisberg, and he's a close friend. And he would always call out kind of these wild card ideas and just like, yeah, it sounds great, but play it like you're playing in a bar, like your last set, and like you're a little sloppy. And so we'd kind of do that in that headspace. And like it was fun just kind of trying different prompts of things, to see just what comes out of the songs. Like, how do you best want to tell this story? Um, and it was another cool thing is that we chose to not use click track for anything. So, um,
Really?
which was really, really liberating. It's like just being able to like count off and yeah, and just kind of let the music push and pull. And if you
Mhm.
listen to Suddenly and the Honeybee record, you can tell where things naturally slow down or pick up, and like uh, that was really that was really fun. So yeah,
That's cool. I love that. I've never, a lot of people don't record that way, right? I mean, especially like a live take, and then everyone says like, "Oh, we take this one." It's usually done very, traditionally, where drums and then guitars and bass, and so the way you're doing it is really cool in itself. But to have that idea of like play it like you're, it's last call at the bar and you're the bar band, or with more like that swing and kind of looseness to the songs. I'm sure that can cut through in a way on the recording that you couldn't do if you were, I
right.
just never heard of that before. Like, I just think that's such a creative, clever way to like approach something, and then be like, okay, we can try this take a little bit more this way. But since you're taking the whole song, it all will make sense at the end. And you by eliminating that click track, it doesn't matter if it's whatever BPM it needs to be at.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the idea is to like start the song and get to the end. So it's like
Right.
oh shit, like I'm a little nervous now. I have to like actually play the right chords and I feel like, but there's times where we left in mistakes and that also felt very kind of rebellious and just like it just became part of the song in a way. It didn't even feel like a mistake, like listening back to it. So yeah, it was a very different way of approaching a record, and both Suddenly and Honeybee, and it just felt like uh, yeah, just a cathartic way to record music and uh, and just to connect too with musicians and be in the same room and just be looking at each other and like um, just yeah, making something that feels a bit more raw and emotional and it was very fulfilling. So I I I, I just want to keep in future, sessions and stuff like that, just keep reinventing kind of the way of just tracking a song. It's
Mhm.
like I I I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I think it's just whatever's gonna, you know, inspire you the most. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Garrett, for doing this, man. This has been so much fun. I
that's
definitely need to go back and listen to Suddenly, now knowing that it was done that way, I'm really interested to at least kind of just hear it with a new ear.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much. I have one more quick question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Ooh, advice. One thing that uh has been coming up for me lately is uh is the concept of wasted time or whatever, and like thinking that uh the time that, maybe I'm sitting down to write a song, that if nothing comes out in the hour that I sit down to try to write a song, then that time, was it wasted? Um, or was it, is anything coming out of that? And I'm constantly surprised by um, just that I don't really know what I'm making when I'm trying to make something, and and sometimes just sitting and thinking that nothing is coming for an hour uh, is opening up space, for the next time you sit down. And then there was that little tiny germ of a thought that becomes something else. So I really don't think time is ever, you know, technically wasted. I think it's always just it's malleable. It's just like I think taking a small note of what you're doing when you are creating is also very helpful to leave and then come back to. I think like giving things space, something that I try to do. Um, so whether it's like a voice memo or just something in your notes app or like written down, it's like if you can just put down whatever your thoughts are in that moment and peace out for a while, go for a walk, get a coffee, something, come back to it. I think just that freshness can help just see, oh, maybe this would work. It's like and kind of relinquishing control too. It's like you don't always have to force a song to come. Sometimes songs just want to write themselves. So just gotta let them.
Bringing it backward.